Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks. It is time for our first update on the Airfix 1/32 scale Aston Martin DB5 that we are doing for the small scale group build hosted by Shawn of the Scale Model Car Guy channel and Dan the man over at the Sixties Rules. He had to get a new channel name around there. I will put a link to both of those gentlemen hosting this group build down at the bottom. But for right now, let's go and get the camera flipped around and see where we're at. Alright guys, let's go ahead and start with the body. All the prep work has been done. This thing is ready for primer. Panel lines had to be rescribed. If you guys remember from the unboxing, the boot and the bonnet here had raised panel lines on them. Yeah, I'm using the English terms. It's an English car. I figured our friends across the pond will appreciate it. But we went in with our scribing tools and we went all around the panel lines as best as we could and rescribed those and then sanded the raised panel lines down. Now that was an absolute challenge and these are not as clean as they could be. This plastic is ridiculously soft. Like just putting like Tamiya extra thin on this plastic, it turns into goo. On the trunk, the panel line just comes back to somewhere around here and it stops right at the mold line. And it shouldn't. It should come down and form the actual bottom half of the trunk. So I had to create these panel lines down here. And as you can see, they're not the straightest in the world. We have also opened up the air intake on the hood here. And we got that cleaned up with a bit of sandpaper. That took some care, but we were able to get that done. There is a ton of putty. All of those sink marks that I showed you in the unboxing, they are all clearly visible under this primer, or under the, not primer, but under the putty. I used the Tamiya polyester putty, so I shouldn't have any paint issues. When I go to paint it, it won't like shrink back. We did get the lower valance on and we had to putty that in because it doesn't fit with the body. There's just entire gaps between this part and the body that I filled with putty as well. I almost want to say there's more putty than car. The back end had to have a lot of putty work done. So these are the taillights and they stick out considerably past the edge of the car. If you look at reference photos, the body comes all the way back and there's not like an extending out trim or anything. It's just body color all the way back and then it's silver inside in here, which is going to be interesting to try and paint, but we'll see what we can do about getting that masked off. The window trim was non-existent. So what I did was I picked up some 1/2 millimeter, half round plastic rod and I went in and made my own window trim. So I replaced all the window trim around the car, the drip rails, rear window. Interesting enough, this rear window is all one piece. I was able to get it to curve and bend and follow along, and it all meets up down here at the bottom. Just, that was pretty cool. I kind of wish I had done that up here, but I don't think I would have gotten that sharp 90 or that one to have worked. Our door handles. Now there is a button on the actual door handle and those should be open, but I'm not going to take the time to try and open these ridiculously tiny door handles. I thought about shaving them off and 3D printing some, but they would be so tiny and so fragile, I doubt they would survive the printing. So what I did was I just drilled holes where the button and the door lock would be, and we're going to replace these with either a 0.8 or a 1 millimeter top studio rivet to simulate that button. Ridiculous ton of flash. 3 metric butt tons, not imperial butt tons, but metric butt tons for our UK friends, since this is a UK car. flash everywhere. That's part of the reason why there was no, like, I lost what little window trim there was when I was cleaning the flash up on here, but there really wasn't much to begin with. There was a ton of flash all around these headlights. I pretty much practically have reformed this area around down here. I'm hoping that this is going to turn out okay when I get the, because you can't see this side of that turn signal like you can. It's very pronounced over here and it's just non-existent over here. So I don't think that's going to be the greatest when it comes out, but we'll do what we can. Had to clean up a lot of flash out of here for these inserts. A lot of flash in the wheel wells. But all in all, it's looking pretty good. On the chassis, I've opened the chassis up because the way the exhaust sits, it was sitting way too high. It was sitting like way up here. So with that opening that I made in there, it will actually sit in there and it'll glue down a little bit better. It'll sit better. And I have lobbed off the exhaust tips. So again, the plastic on this kit is ridiculously soft. I was trying to drill the tips out and keep the original tips, and it just was not going well. The plastic just kept bending and wobbling, and no matter what I did, I couldn't really keep it straight. I was having a hard time getting the drill bit to, it kept wanting to go out the side. I didn't quite go out the side, but it was looking pretty bad. So I gave in. I just couldn't deal with it. I couldn't get it to drill out properly, so I just lobbed them off. I drilled out where the exhaust tips should be, and I have 3D modeled and printed up. Let's zoom in for these. I've 3D modeled up my own exhaust tips. Now, doing so, I was able to get the angle on the tips that should be there as well. It was just a bit of plastic rod basically sticking out the end of the exhaust. It was just straight. So mine will have the properly angled tips in there. And so these didn't turn out super well. I did actually end up kind of drilling through the sides almost on them, but you get the idea. They're just going to slot right in and glue into place. So that'll also allow me to chrome these while doing these in silver, and they will stick out just like that. Nothing new has been done with the wheels, so we're not going to be bothering with those. We're going to go ahead and look at our glass here real quick. I have not sanded and polished these. It's still scratched up. What I have done is removed the ejection pin marks that were in here and were sticking up really bad. If you notice, there's that giant gap in the roof. Looks like a Revell kit. That really kind of bothers me. So I made a template, and then I applied that template to some sheet acetate. That's going to glue down right in like that, and it won't have the tape on it. I will get that sanded up and painted, and I will have a headliner for the car instead of that opening in the roof. Moving on to the interior stuff. I'm not sure if I had these done or not in time for the unboxing, so I can't remember if these were in the unboxing or not. This is the kit steering wheel, and that is ridiculously thick for this scale. On Colts 3D, I was able to find a actual Aston Martin steering wheel and scale that down. It may be for a DB5, I can't remember, but it's close enough. It looks a lot better. I tend to print spares, especially for small stuff. The smaller the part is, the more spares that I print up. because some of them just don't make it through the printing process, and then you lose some. Like whenever I do car interiors and I'm doing the window cranks, I will usually print up like 20 window cranks, just because I know I'm going to break some, I'm going to lose some, and some aren't even going to make it off the printer. But steering wheel, that's what we're looking at, and that should look really good. Our dashboard. So there is an ejector pin on the back right here, and that basically shot out through the front side of the part, so you could see where it looked almost like flash. It was so bad it actually stuck out at an angle, like a sharp edge just sticking out of the dashboard, and it ran through the center of the glove box detail. There was like a little bit of a raised panel line around where the glove box should be. And so basically what I did was I sanded all of that nice and smooth, and then I 3D modeled a glove box and just glued it on there. It's not great, but it will get the job done. This isn't going to be a highly detailed dash anyhow, as the raised detail for this is just non-existent. I'm probably going to paint this whole thing in black and just basically dry brush some silver around the edge of the glove box and around, hopefully be able to pick up some of these gauges maybe. I'm honestly not super hopeful about the dash, but it should look okay, especially being as small as this kit is. Now for the seats. If you remember in the unboxing, these seats were pretty basic. There was just a little bit of a rounded edge here, and then this was completely flat. So I took some more of that 1/2 millimeter half round stock, and I tried to get the ridges in here, and I don't think I did a bad job. Could it be cleaner? Maybe. Yeah. Now, I probably should have gotten some 1 millimeter half round, because these are a bit smaller than the rear seat, but I don't think it's horribly smaller. And then I went off and I caused a conundrum for myself, because I went to Black Box STL. I've had these actually for a while, and I just printed these out, and I really like these seats. They're not accurate to an Aston Martin DB5, and they don't match the rear. So that's what my choices look like. We've got the kit seats that have been slightly modified. And then we've got the 3D printed seats with a really nice pattern to them, but they don't come anywhere near matching the rear seat. Now, I did have to scale those down. Those are actually 1/24 scale seats, but scaling down is really not that big of a problem. You find out what scale your part is in. You take one of the scaling dimensions, whether it's X, Y, or Z, doesn't really matter. You take that number, you multiply by whatever the base scale is. So if it's 1/10 scale, you're going to multiply by 10. You're then going to turn around and you're going to divide by the scale that you want it in. So multiplying by 10 gets you 1:1. Divide by 32 will get you 1/32 scale. You put that setting back into your slicer, and it's going to set, if you've got it turned on, it'll change all of them at the same time, but it will give you a percentage, and then you just know to use that percentage to scale the rest of your parts. So if you're doing 2 set seats, you just use that same percentage and scale the other seat. But yeah, that's kind of our options, and I think I very well may go with these diamond seats. You guys let me know, what do you think? All right, the last thing that we do have done this morning, in fact, I went in and I drilled out holes in the fenders for the fender mounted mirrors. Now the kit doesn't come with mirrors, and most of the reference photo cars don't have mirrors on them either. Most of the ones that do are the James Bond cars or James Bond knockoff cars, which I was tempted not to do them, but I had already 3D printed these, and I'm never going to use them on anything else because I don't build in 30-second scale. So I figured, why the heck not? We'll just go ahead and we'll go ahead and use them anyhow. So I went and drilled them this morning. I do have them on 0.5mm pins, which was a challenge because they didn't really want to. They're very small. Get my glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. All right. Getting old sucks, guys. You have to take your glasses off to see anything up close, and then you have to put them back on to see, you know, what you're recording. But yeah, so that's what they're going to look like with the mirrors on. So I don't think that looks too bad. They may be a little bit big, but I can't really shrink them anymore. They're correctly scaled for 30-second scale. So, but I can't scale them down anymore and actually get 0.5mm pins to go in them. It was a challenge to drill these out for these pins to begin with. The only thing I am considering, I mean, you guys saw these in the, you guys saw the wheels. I'm considering whether or not I want to actually try and make a disc to go back behind them, but I'm leaning towards not doing so. I don't really think it would give that much detail, and they're so small anyhow. Again, let me know what you guys think. So the only other thing that I have to do interior wise is I do need to figure out what I'm going to do for my shifter. Now my current plan is to use the largest insect pin that I have as a size 1. But I have these insect pins and they've got this little black ball at the top of them. So I'm probably going to just use this as my gear shift. The issue that I have though is that this will absolutely nowhere near fit inside that hole. So what I'm contemplating doing is 3D modeling up a shift boot, because the kit's shifter is just a stick of plastic. It doesn't look good at all. In fact, I think I've already lost it. I don't think I even have it anymore. If I do still have it, it will be in this bag, but I really think that I've chopped it off. Oh, there it is. That is the gear shifter for this car. And that just looks, honestly, like just a stick of plastic. You could just do that with plastic rod. So I'm gonna need to get some measurements and measure the diameter of the actual needle in here, and then I will need to do some measurements and get the measurement for this opening for that hole. And I think I'm just gonna 3D model up and print a shift boot, run this into the top of the shift boot, and just glue it down. Alright guys, so that is going to be a wrap for this video. My goal with this is going to be to basically try to get everything primered and painted at once so I can just sit down and do the assembly all in one go. I don't think this is going to take me more than 2 weeks. It may take me 3. If it does take me 3, that's going to push us to the very end of February, but my goal is to have this done in a couple of weeks. So thanks for hanging out with me. I always appreciate you checking out the videos, and I'm going to get to work and I will catch you guys on the next one.